There is a specific quality to the light on a Sunday afternoon. Have you noticed it? It comes through the window around 4 p.m., a little lower, a little quieter than the light on a Tuesday. And for millions of people, this light brings with it a very specific, heavy feeling. It isn't exactly sadness, though it feels like it. It isn't exactly boredom, though you might be doing nothing. It is a subtle, low-grade anxiety that settles in the chest. It is the feeling of a silence that is just a little too loud. For 40 years of your life, you knew exactly what this feeling was. It was the Sunday scaries. It was your body's alarm system warning you that the weekend was dying and the obligations of the work week were approaching. It was the dread of the Monday morning commute, the unread emails, the pressure to perform. But then you retired. You reached the finish line. You handed in the badge. You turned off the alarm clock. And you stepped into what you were told would be the permanent vacation. And yet, 3 months, 6 months, maybe 2 years later, the feeling is still there. Sunday rolls around, the house gets quiet, and that old, familiar knot tightens in your stomach. But now, it is confusing. It is terrifying, actually. Because there is no meeting tomorrow. There is no boss waiting for you. There is no commute. So why do you feel like this? And more importantly, why does it seem to be getting worse, not better? Psychologists have a name for this. It is not something you are imagining. It is a documented psychological phenomenon called Sunday neurosis. The term was actually coined way back in 1946 by the famous Austrian psychiatrist Viktor Frankl. He noticed that his patients didn't suffer the most during the hard work of the week. They suffered the most when the work stopped. Frankl defined Sunday neurosis as that kind of depression which afflicts people who become aware of the lack of content in their lives when the rush of the busy week is over. When you were working, the busyness masked the void. You were too distracted to ask big questions about who you were or what your life meant. You just had to get things done. But in retirement, the mask is gone. And on Sundays, when the world quiets down, you are left alone with the one thing you thought you wanted most: time. This script is going to explore why this happens, why the freedom of retirement can actually feel like a prison if it is managed, and exactly how you can build a new architecture for your life that eliminates this dread forever. Let's start with the architecture of time. Human beings are not designed for endless freedom. We think we are. We daydream about lying on a beach with absolutely nothing to do. And that is wonderful, for about 7 days, maybe 10. But the human brain is an engine of problem solving. It craves structure the way the lungs crave oxygen. For your entire adult life, your time had a hard skeleton. It was built on the binary of on and off. The work week was the container for your effort, your identity, and your contribution. The weekend was the container for your recovery. The weekend felt magical precisely because it was scarce. It was a limited resource. That Saturday morning coffee tasted sweeter because you knew you couldn't have it on Wednesday. The lazy Sunday breakfast was a luxury because it stood in sharp contrast to the rush of Friday. This is a fundamental law of psychology. We only appreciate things in relation to their opposite. We need the cold to appreciate the warmth. We need the effort to appreciate the rest. In retirement, you have committed what I call an architecture error. You have dissolved the skeleton of your week. You have torn down the walls between Monday and Saturday. Now, every day is technically a weekend. And while this sounds like paradise, it creates a psychological flatline. When every day is a free day, then no day is particularly free. The contrast is gone. The coffee on Tuesday tastes the same as the coffee on Saturday. The days bleed into one another, creating a homogeneous gray fog of time. This is why Sunday feels so depressing. Your nervous system, trained over decades, is waiting for the cycle to reset. It is waiting for the tension of the work week to return so that it can enjoy the release of the weekend. But the tension never comes. And without the tension, There is no release. There is only existing. Furthermore, we have to talk about dopamine. During your career, even if you didn't love your job, it provided a steady drip of dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. You finished a project? Dopamine. You solved a problem? Dopamine. You cleared your inbox? Dopamine. The Workweek was a dopamine delivery system. Then came the weekend, which was a serotonin delivery system, the chemical of safety, relaxation, and belonging. When you retire without a plan, you cut off the dopamine supply. You are living entirely in a state of passive consumption, watching TV, reading the news, scrolling through phones. This does not provide the deep satisfaction of doing. So by the time Sunday afternoon hits, you are not just bored. You are chemically depleted. You are experiencing a form of withdrawal from the sensation of being useful. So, how do we fix this? The answer is not to go back to work. You earned your freedom. The answer is to become the architect of your own time. You must stop waiting for the world to give you a structure, and you must build one with your own hands. To cure Sunday neurosis, we have to artificially recreate the binary of time. We have to split your life back into weekdays and weekends. This sounds counterintuitive. You might say, I retired to get away from schedules. But listen closely. Structure is not the enemy of freedom. Structure is the enabler of freedom. Without a cup, you cannot drink the water. Without a structure, you cannot enjoy the time. Here is the 3-step protocol to reclaiming your Sundays. Step 1. Design your new weekday. You need to designate Monday through Friday, or perhaps Monday through Thursday, as your days of gentle productivity. This does not mean you need to wear a suit or set an alarm for 6 a.m. But it means that when you wake up on a Tuesday, you know that this is a day for doing, not just being. These are the days you schedule your volunteering. This is when you go to the gym. This is when you tackle the administrative tasks of life. This is when you work on that novel, or learn that language, or tend to the garden. You need to treat these activities with professional respect. If you decide that Tuesday and Thursday mornings are for writing, you do not cancel them because you don't feel like it. You show up. This reintroduces the source of dopamine. It gives you a reason to get out of bed. It restores the feeling of agency, that you are an active participant in life, not just a passive observer. Step 2. The ritual of the transition. One of the biggest losses in retirement is the Friday feeling. Remember that feeling at 5 p.m. on a Friday? The relief? The excitement? You can't have that feeling if you haven't done anything different during the week. But if you have spent Monday through Thursday engaged in gentle productivity, you can now reinstate the ritual of the weekend. You need a clear boundary marker. Maybe it is Friday at 5 p.m. You close the laptop. You put away the gardening tools. You clean off the desk, and you mark the moment. Maybe you pour a specific glass of wine. Maybe you put on a specific record. Maybe you go out for dinner. You are signaling to your brain, the work is done. The rest begins. Step 3. Protect the sanctuary now. We arrive at the new weekend, Saturday and Sunday. These 2 days must be radically different from the rest of the week. These are your days for guilt-free loafing. If you catch yourself wanting to check your emails or fix the sink on a Sunday, stop. Tell yourself, no, this is the weekend. This artificial boundary protects your rest. When you were working, you often felt guilty about relaxing because there was always more to do. In retirement, you feel guilty about relaxing because you feel you should be doing something meaningful. By compartmentalizing your meaningful work to the weekdays, you buy yourself the psychological permission to do absolutely nothing on Sunday. You can watch the football game, read the trashy novel, or nap for 2 hours without a shred of guilt. Why? Because you earned it. You put in your hours during your new weekday. When you do this, when you reintroduce contrast, Sunday afternoon changes. That heavy, anxious light at 4 p.m. starts to look different. It no longer represents a void. It no longer asks you the terrifying question, what are you doing with your life? Instead, it becomes a peaceful closing ceremony for a week well lived. It becomes a time of quiet satisfaction. You can look back at the week and see that you learned something. You helped someone, you built something. And you can look forward to Monday morning, not with dread, but with a gentle curiosity, because you have things to do. Viktor Frankl, the man who identified this neurosis, had a solution for it. He said the only way to survive the vacuum of life is to fill it with meaning. Sunday neurosis is not a symptom that you are failing at retirement. It is a symptom that you are still alive. It is your soul telling you that it is hungry. It is hungry for rhythm. It is hungry for contrast. It is hungry for the beautiful friction of effort and the sweet release of rest. Don't ignore the feeling. Don't drown it in wine or television. Listen to it. It is telling you to pick up the pen and draw the blueprints for your own life. Retirement is not an ending. It is a blank canvas. And the scariest thing in the world is a blank canvas until you make the first mark. So, make the mark. Build your week. Reclaim your Sunday. If this conversation resonated with you, and if you are currently navigating the messy, beautiful architecture of life after work, I invite you to subscribe to The Modern Elder. We are building a community here that refuses to just fade away. And I want to hear from you in the comments below. Be honest. Do you feel that Sunday dip? And if you have found a way to beat it, what is your Friday ritual? Share it with us. We can learn from your blueprint. Thank you for giving me your time. I'll see you in the next one.